We're starting off this video on a tangent today, which is funny because I was going to talk about procrastination to start. I've recently found out that if I do this shape, my phone starts recording. For some reason, if I do this shape with the palm of my hand when I'm doing in selfie mode, this is so frustrating because I like practicing my takes. I like talking to the camera and seeing a little reflection of myself on the phone screen and moving my hands around and flailing to emphasize certain points. And this motion started recording. Procrastination. It sucks. I'm really good at doing it. Just look at the intro of this video, right? One of the problems that I've found myself having with doing this 0130 project layout is sometimes I will finish working on a piece of the project and I'll finish recording it, and then I'll put it on the back burner and I'll just completely forget and procrastinate and not make a video on it. I think a great example of this behavior is engine number 22, who I finished in November of 2023, and I don't think I made a video on her until like February of 2024. She was done for months. I did nothing. So one of the rules I've sort of been setting for myself is if a project becomes stagnant and I'm not working on it or I'm not showcasing it on the channel in some way, if it gets delayed by about 3 months, I have to do something. Now, on one hand, this means that the quality of videos kind of goes down because I force myself to finish these projects and get them over with. On the other hand, it means the projects get done. It's been 4 weeks since I had my last video on model railroading and 0130 and whatnot. I am a talented YouTuber. Now, I don't actually think that quality down, video out problem is going to be an issue with this video, because normally I think that's a problem when I have a finished project that I want to show. For example, like engine number 22, where I struggled to find any footage from back when I was actually modifying her. And I kind of just rambled and pointed at things that I did and talked about them and said, oh yeah, just trust me, bro. It's a lot more exciting for these videos of repainting engines and whatnot and building things to actually see the process, or even just to see still images of progress as it's going along. Even if you don't get to see exactly how it was built, you get to see how it's going through the steps and phases. And the good news is, well, actually kind of the bad news is, but the good news is I haven't started any of these projects. It's been 3 months. Oh, it's been 3. Okay. So there are 4 packages that I have here today that I want to talk about. 3 of them I got at like the end of May. I'm mostly talking about them here because might as well throw them on. It helps to pad out the video length. One of them I got about 3 months ago. It was really big, really exciting, and I'm eager to talk about it today. It's just been sitting there. I haven't done anything with it at all for some reason. And this is one of the biggest projects that I'm gonna have for rolling stock and or locomotives on the railroad, and it's exciting and I've done nothing with it. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about some odds and sods I've collected over the past couple of months. We're going to be talking about some random things I have for the layout. We're going to be talking about some rolling stock and kits that I've collected, and we're actually going to be talking about a little bit of N-scale at the very end too. That's a little bit of a detour from what this channel usually does when it comes down to model railroading, but we have some N. I don't have anything else to add to this intro. Let's just jump right in. So, the exciting 3-month-old package that I wanted to talk about today was a 3-car Colorado and Southern starter set. Now, okay, this isn't all that interesting to me because I don't really need Colorado and Southern coaches. I already have 18 passenger cars aside from these ones, 19 if we include the Mount Blue Shorty Combine. So I have my fair share of passenger cars. I don't need more to destroy, and I'll probably just resell these on eBay to somebody else who actually would like to use them in a couple of weeks or months or whenever I figure out how to do this stupid P.O. box that I keep saying I'll do. But the real reason I'm excited about this 3-car set, you'll notice that there is no engine on the front of it right now. And that's because they did send an engine, but it was the wrong engine. I guess I should clarify. The eBay listing did show the correct locomotive that they shipped with the product. It's just that the locomotive that was included was not the one that they usually had on these starter sets. That's why it's exciting. The engine that was included was a Tweety 10-wheeler. Now, this is kind of exciting to me because these locomotives are some of the longest that Bachmann has ever made. They come in at around 13.5 inches, which is about the same as the articulated that we already have. But the thing about the articulated is its boiler is tiny in comparison to the Tweety 10-wheeler. And that's because the prototype for the articulated had like 10,000 pounds of tractive effort, while the Tweety 10-wheeler had like 19,000. It's pretty comical how weak this little articulated engine was. Now, this Tweety 10-wheeler isn't without its flaws. It has its fair share. For instance, the bell has broken off. We do have it, it's still there, but it's not in its right place. Same with the whistle, it's down here on the other side of the cab. One of the piston covers, the valve covers, I don't know what those are called, that's fallen off. There's no number plate on the front of the engine. The cab has damaged windows like crazy. And probably the funniest thing about all of this, the engine is number 12. The tender is number 14. Here's a close-up of the tender, by the way. You can very clearly see it says 14 on the headlight, it says 14 on the back, and the engine is not 14. Now, all these little pieces of damage are honestly totally fixable. I'm sure I can make this engine look exquisite again. And I only picked this thing up for $110. And that's including the 3 coaches that came with it, you know? $110 for the whole quote-unquote starter set. And to top it all off, this is a sound-equipped locomotive. Now, I do believe this whistle is honestly one of the least exciting that I have on any locomotive, but it's still sound and I am not complaining. I think I'll wind up painting this engine as Laminate Port Carony number 27 or something like that. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with it, and I guess that's why I've been procrastinating, but I do know I want this engine to be a Willamette Port Carony locomotive. It's just the perfect sort of top-end, strong, fast locomotive that would have been seen near the end of the railroad's lifespan. And I'm really happy to have this in my fleet. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any other 0-30 locomotives to talk about. Trust me, if I had more, I would be rambling about them right now. We do have some more engines to talk about later, the N scale, as I mentioned, but we'll get to that when we get to that package. But there's still some exciting, cool things that I've been able to pick up in 0-30 that I figure we'll talk about first. Like, for instance, this little miner's cabin. I'm now realizing that the front of this is poorly lit, and I should probably get a better setup when I'm talking to the camera like this. Anyways, we got this little AMB miner's cabin. This was pre-built by Mr. Will Dunsing. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's spelled Duensining. Will, if you're here, please correct me in the comments section. And if you think you know better, correct me anyways. If you're just some stranger on the internet and you're not Will, please let me know how you think that's pronounced. I have no clue. Anyways, we got this nicely painted little cabin here. I really love the roof detail, which I guess, okay, the lighting issue is actually kind of convenient here because it's easier to see the weathering on the roof from this lack of lighting than it is with the lighting. I gotta figure that out. Anyways, very nicely built, very nice little color scheme, and it's going to be a great start to one half of the layout. Because basically, the way I think the layout's going to be decorated is that the river scene is going to have a small mining town and community that isn't really a serious town served by the railroad, but it still has a couple of buildings and maybe some roads. And then you'll have the actual major town with the passenger station with a couple of buildings with the interchange. Those will sort of be the two halves of the layout that are split down the middle with some trees, and I think this will fit very nicely into the mining town, which originally I wasn't even actually going to have a miner's cabin in the mining town area. It was literally just going to be a mine and a warehouse to represent the industries the railroad served, but this is going to fit in perfectly. It's also come with a little scratch-built I almost called this a car dock. A garage. You would never know that my father was a youth librarian with how terrible I am with words sometimes. There's this nice little scratch-built garage that came with it. Which, would you really have a garage for a mining cabin? You know, would the miners have their own personal car? I still think I'm going to include it because, well, okay, now that I think of it, I know that like the Ford Model T was popular for its ability to reuse its flywheel not just for driving but for also operating machinery in certain locations. So maybe there is a car that would fit in very nicely here. For instance, maybe the Simplex. This also came in the package, pre-built. One of the wheels fell off. We found it in the package, and it's not too hard to put back on. I just have to be a little careful about that. A very nicely detailed little car that we can just add to one of the scenes to really help sell what era we're trying to model here. You know, sort of early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. I guess they didn't have cars in the late 1800s, did they? Still, we got this nice little touring vehicle. It's not really a heavy and I'm not sure this would really be a heavy industrial car. I don't know cars from this era well enough to comment on that. If you have any ideas in the comment section, what kind of cars I should be looking for this layout, please, by all means, let me know the exact make and model of a Model T that I should be looking for. But I figure this is a nice little addition that will probably add to the bigger town scene rather than the mining town scene, but either way, very pretty little vehicle. Last thing that came with this package is this sort of generic tree. I'm not entirely sure what to do with this because it doesn't really fit the kind of trees I already have very well. And I'm looking for oak trees, and this looks, I mean, it looks kind of similar to an oak, but not quite identical, really. It looks different enough that I wouldn't call this one. But I think this will make for a nice little addition somewhere. We'll figure out where eventually. That was the last of package number 2, which had a pretty nice coherent theme, you know? Everything was just scenery to add to your own model railroad. Package number 3, a little bit all over the place. A lot of bit all over the place, actually. To start, we have this set of 3 freight car underframes from Bachmann. It's a little bit old, a little bit damaged. The underframes themselves look fine, you know, they seem to be doing all right for themselves. This really wasn't all that interesting to me, but now that I have them, I realize I do have a couple of uses for these cars. For one, scratch building. I built this car myself a while ago on the channel. I don't remember exactly when. It was probably in October. Just scratch built this little low side gondola for fun on a spare Bachmann underframe that we had. I could do so much more with these. You know, I could build some some custom box cars. Maybe I could build some silly passenger cars. Maybe I could build a custom caboose. I don't really know what I want to do with these, but they could be a good place to start with for scratch building. They could also be useful for some of the cars I already have, because a lot of the cars that I have, like this Stake Flat number 198, this was originally a Hawthorne Village Budweiser flat car. This was from TK Productions' donation to the channel. You can kind of see a little bit of a remnant of that with the red underside that it has. I actually wound up replacing the underframe of this car. I still have the original underframe, but I wound up replacing it due to a kind of unique issue. Whenever the couplers on a freight car break, I like replacing them with KDs, because KDs are metal and the Bachmann ones are just plastic for the most part. And the KD ones are much more sturdy, they're more reliable, they look a little bit better. And so whenever I have to replace a coupler, I prefer to do it by getting KDs. The problem, though, is that the KD couplers on the little shaft that goes into the coupler box, they're actually a little bit thicker. And most of the time this doesn't matter. But for some reason, on a couple of the cars that I got, it did. And whenever I put on the KD couplers, the new KD coupler would be too stiff in the coupler box when I screwed it into place. Then I'd slightly unscrew it to try and loosen it up, and instead of being stuck because it was too tight, it would get stuck because there was a little bit of a gap, and the centering spring that the coupler uses to recenter itself would actually sneak out of the gap between the bottom of the coupler box and the sides, and instead of being stuck in the center, it would be stuck on the sides. And so to fix this issue, we just gave him new underframes. Now, we could have stolen the couplers off of these underframes and used them instead, except for some reason the couplers on these underframes are slightly different from the ones that were used on the Hawthorne Village cars. They're center set couplers rather than overset couplers. If you don't know what that means, basically you have the coupler head, and it's where the little rod that goes into the coupler box is positioned. A center set is positioned in the center, and an overset is positioned a little too high. And so we can't just steal them off these cars, right? We can't steal the center sets and put them on the overset as a replacement to the oversets. But for some reason, when we just directly replaced the underframes, these couplers are still at the same height as the underset. I would figure that there would be a little bit of a height issue there, you know? I figured that maybe they were using oversets because the trucks were too big or something. I think they were using overset couplers because the actual underframes were too big somehow, which is really confusing and really weird. Anyways, wrapping this back around at the packages. These will either be nice for scratch building or for replacing more of these Hawthorne Village underframes as they break and as they have problems. It's not what I really bought this package for, but I'll take it. This next piece is kind of worthless to me right now. I do have a plan for it, but it's a plan that I don't plan on doing for a long time. It's a switch. This would have been useful a few months ago before we finished the layout. Actually, no, it wouldn't have, because this is a right hand. On our track plan, we only use one right hand, and in total, before we built the layout, we had 3 right hand switches. So we have 2 left over right now. And now we have 3 left over. Or 3 right over, I guess. I do have a plan for this because this is a Code 100 switch. And the layout is built on Pico Code 100 track. And this will be a little bit out of place, you know, because it's not Pico track. But I have an idea for the far future of this layout, once we actually get it decorated, to add an extension. I would point out where the extension is going to be, but based on this camera angle, you can barely tell anyways. This is the side of the layout without the river. This is the half circle here. I have an idea for where that long track is on the edge of the layout to extend it about 4 feet, to add a more in-depth interchange, to add an engine shed and turntable, to add a little dock scene. Excuse me. And that requires 3 right-hand switches. And I designed this before I had this switch anyway, so convenient that we have it, but I don't have any use for this for a while, so it's just kind of gonna sit on the back burner. Now we're getting on to the stuff I'm actually kind of excited for. To start, we have a Bantam Model Works Pagosa Style Cupola kit. This is a conversion kit that allows you to turn a combine coach into a caboose, or a comboose, if you will. I honestly don't really know what I want to do with this. I know that I want to do with this. I know this is a cool kit and that I'm excited to have it, but I'm torn on my plans. Part of me thinks that I should sell it to somebody else after like building it onto one of my spare combines, and I should paint it up, make it look pretty, sell it on eBay for whoever might specifically want one of these. Part of me thinks I should put it on the Halloween car that I have, the Heartless and Coin River. The coach we built for Halloween, because that could be a fun little addition for that little combine. Part of me is thinking I should put it on a Willamette Port Carony combine as another strange addition to my passenger car fleet. I'm torn. I don't know which of these 3 options I really want to do. Maybe there's a 4th. Comment in the comment section what you think I should do, because I don't know. I just know that I want to do. I know that this is exciting to me. I think the most interesting car of all of these, though, is the Mount Blue Model Co. excursion car body for the standard Bachmann passenger car chassis. Now, you can buy excursion cars from Bachmann, and they're like, if you buy them from Train World, they're $25 to $30, but they're short. This isn't. And if you're somebody like me, who happens to have 21 Bachmann passenger cars, for some stupid reason, this is a perfect way to spice things up and add a new type of passenger car to your fleet, especially when the Bachmann cars, you've only got coach, observation, which is really just a slightly different coach, combine, and baggage car. So now we have excursion. Now, when I first saw this kit, I actually thought this excursion car was a little unrealistic. And when I first saw the Bachmann ones, I thought this was unrealistic. But recently, I've actually been finding out a little bit about an interesting railroad. I cannot remember the name for the life of me, and I should have written it down before I came downstairs and started recording. But it was a 2-foot gauge railroad with 4.5% grades and 120-foot radius curves. And it was the only railroad in the United States that was 2-foot gauge and had 440s on it. And it was an excursion railroad built in like 1889, 1890. And I don't know if they had cars exactly like this, but they had excursion cars that were more open and probably like this. And so while I look at this car and I think of it as a a sort of modern era coach that you'd see on maybe the White Pass and Yukon, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, or really the um, excursion railroads that have been built from the scraps, maybe the Georgetown Loop Railroad. Um, Cars like these could have actually been feasibly on railroads back in the era that I'm trying to model. And so it's really strange, but really exciting. This is probably going to be coach number 69. In fact, I know it's going to be coach number 69 because I'm building it tonight. I'm not recording it in this video, but I'm building it tonight. That is a promise. That's all on the ON30 front. But it's not everything I want to talk about today. I did say there was a little bit of N scale that I wanted to discuss, so let's talk about it. I used to do N scale a lot when I was younger. I have a massive collection still of random locomotives and freight cars, and I still have plans eventually to build a 12 by 24 foot N scale layout in my basement. Is that a little bit ambitious? Absolutely, especially considering that I'm so invested in ON30 right now. The main reason, plus the main reason that I got into N scale was because you could fit so many trains in so little space, and you could do a whole bunch of operations without much room. And admittedly, that was due to me not having much room in my own bedroom at the time, but I've recently kind of changed course and gone from purely running trains to a mixture of running trains and painting them, building them. This little scratch-built hopper right here, made this all myself, you know? So I've kind of drifted away from N-scale, not permanently, but definitely for a while now. But that doesn't mean I'm completely avoiding it, because my father and I still bring N-scale out to train shows occasionally. We have this small T-track layout that is just T-track, it's just 2 loops of track, nothing else. But we put up a sign that says, "Kids can run this train." And it's really popular with the parents, it's really popular with the kids, and, more importantly, it gets my father and I a free pass into these train shows. We don't have to pay an entry fee. Woohoo! But no, we really like going around and having this basic double-track setup where we just have a simple controller that only controls the speed of the train, doesn't let you change the direction, and we just tell the kids, go as fast as you can or as slow as you want. It sort of helps to bring a new generation into this hobby in a way by giving them a more hands-on experience that train shows often do not offer. And so because of this, my father and I, we often look for engines that we can have as dedicated locomotives for our shows. And today, we have 3 engines that I got. Now, the package only included this Bachmann F7, or I don't know if this is an F7, it's an F unit of some kind. This Bachmann USRA 060, this Kato P42, and this Kato Amfleet coach. I think this is Kato, right? Yeah, this is Kato. These coaches we already had. I just decided to put them behind the F unit because they looked cool. This is the sort of train that we would usually run at a show, Maybe plus a coach. We don't have another streamlined coach like this, unfortunately, but we just run something short and simple and identifiable that the kids can easily recognize. And these 3 locomotives are perfect at doing that. You have the iconic war bonnet paint scheme that basically everybody knows if they've seen American trains. Not literally everybody, but basically everybody. You have yourself a nice little steam engine, though there is an asterisk about this that I'll get into in a second here. And you have the train dad rides to work. I say that because I live in Portland, Oregon, and up here we have the Amtrak Cascades that runs between Portland and Seattle, also goes to Eugene, Oregon, and to Vancouver, British Columbia. I almost said Washington. Washington is very obvious. It's literally across the river from Portland. And while the Cascades does have its own special paint job, recently they have been running more Horizon coaches. And while these are not Horizon coaches, people will still recognize the Amtrak logo. And so while we could get nitpicky and try and correct them, who cares? The point is, the kid recognizes the train. He recognizes the engine. He doesn't need to know that very specifically they're running Horizon coaches, you know? I especially bring up this point because we actually already have an engine with this exact number. We already have an Amtrak P42 numbered 150 in N scale that's only DC powered. But are most little kids going to notice that? No. They're going to notice that that's the train that dad rides to work. And that's going to give them a strong connection and a strong bond with the experience in that train show and give them something special, you know? So I got this little pack here because I want to continue doing that. Unfortunately, my father and I, we haven't been able to make it out to these shows a lot recently mostly because we submit our layouts a little too late and they already are jam-packed at these shows. But if we ever get the chance to do those T-track layouts again, well, we've got some excellent additions here. Now, I said there was an asterisk with the 060, and there very much is. It's not that it's running badly, I'm just putting it on the track for demonstrative purposes. This is actually probably the best running engine of the three. This one is the quietest, this one is very smooth, this one is so flipping fast. Anyways, the reason I'm singling out on the 060, though, I just wanted to run it at full speed for a second. The reason I'm singling out the 060 is because there are conversion kits to convert it into narrow gauge locomotives. There is a conversion kit to turn it into a HON30 060, and there's a conversion kit to turn it into an ON18 060. And so, while these two engines are 100% absolutely supposed to be for the T-track layout, this little 060 might wind up being converted to a narrow gauge engine somewhere down the line. And so I thought I'd ask you all, what do you think would be more interesting? Using this 060 as a means to try out HON30? Or do you think it would be funnier to have an ON18 locomotive of some kind? It would be a tender engine either way. I just thought I'd get some opinions on that because I don't really know. It's probably something I'm going to leave on the back burner for way more than 3 months. But it's fun to daydream, right? It's fun to envision this being special. Anyways, that's all I've got to share with y'all today. I have an excursion car that I need to go build because I did say I was going to build it today. I'm going to build it today. I hope this sort of rambly talking about things that I have was fun. It was fun for me. I really don't have much else to say, do I? Thank you for watching, and take care, folks. Cheers. Oh no, wait a minute.